Rachel Morgan had spent years crafting the perfect plan for her financial future. At 34, she was the director of marketing for a thriving tech firm in San Francisco, a position that came with long hours, high stakes, and an even higher salary. But Rachel wasn't the kind of woman who squandered money on designer handbags or extravagant vacations. She had a bigger vision: financial independence. Owning real estate was part of that plan, and the crown jewel of her investments was a gorgeous 3-bedroom property in Austin, Texas. She had spent months carefully renovating the place, ensuring it would be the perfect rental property. New hardwood floors, energy-efficient appliances, and a chic modern aesthetic. Everything meticulously designed to attract high-paying tenants. It was a business decision, a financial move, not some luxury vacation home she had forgotten about. And yet, as she stood by her office window, phone pressed to her ear, staring blankly at the San Francisco skyline, she couldn't process the words coming from her mother's mouth. "Ashley needed a fresh start, Rachel. You have to understand." Her grip on the phone tightened. Her mother's voice carried that familiar tone, half pleading, half manipulating. "You what?" Rachel's voice was calm, but the storm inside her was brewing. "Your sister needed a place to stay after the divorce and, well, your father and I let her move into your house in Austin. Just until she gets back on her feet." Rachel shut her eyes, inhaling deeply. "And when were you going to tell me?" "We're telling you now, honey." Rachel's knuckles whitened around the phone. "It's my property, Mom. I bought it with my own money." "You had no right." "Well, yes, but Ashley has nowhere else to go right now," Linda interrupted, as if that excused everything. "She's been through so much. The divorce was devastating. And you don't even use the house, Rachel. You're always busy in San Francisco." Rachel let out a slow, measured exhale. "That's not the point." Her mother didn't hear, or refused to. "She's family, Rachel. Family helps family." Rachel bit her tongue so hard she nearly tasted blood. Family helps family. Those words rang hollow. Where was that sentiment when Rachel was in college, working 3 jobs to cover tuition while Ashley partied her way through their parents' bank account? She forced her voice to remain steady. "How long has she been there?" Silence. Then, hesitantly, "A few weeks." Rachel's jaw clenched. "A few weeks? And you gave her the key?" "Your father did," Linda admitted. "You left a spare key with us in case of emergencies." Rachel opened her eyes, rage simmering beneath the surface. So now an emergency is Ashley's inability to act like an adult? Her mother sighed dramatically. "Rachel, please. She's already making the house feel like a home. She's even talking about repainting some of the rooms to brighten up the space." Rachel's stomach dropped. "She's what?" "Oh, nothing major. Just some accent walls. You know how talented she is with interior design." Rachel pinched the bridge of her nose. She remembered all of Ashley's past creative phases: her photography phase, her yoga instructor phase, her organic skincare business phase. All of them funded by their parents, all of them short-lived. "Mom, she can't just—" "Rachel!" Linda cut her off. "Can't you just help your sister? Just this once?" Rachel took another deep breath. A plan was already forming in her mind. "You're right, Mom," she said evenly. "She is family." Linda exhaled in relief. "Oh, sweetheart, I knew you'd understand. You've always been the sensible one." Rachel murmured something noncommittal, already opening her laptop. "I have to go, Mom. Big meeting." She hung up before her mother could say another word. A slow smile curled on Rachel's lips. Her family had underestimated her. She opened a locked drawer in her desk and pulled out a thick folder labeled Austin Property, Legal Documents. It contained everything she had prepared with her lawyer 6 months ago: property ownership papers, corporate holding documents, and most importantly, strict legal occupancy agreements. The house wasn't just in her name anymore. It now belonged to her LLC, meaning any unauthorized occupant, including her sister, could legally be considered a trespasser. Rachel reached for her phone and dialed her attorney. "Olivia, it's time. Remember that scenario we prepared for? Yeah, it's happening." She spent the next hour meticulously reviewing every legal safeguard she had put in place. The property management company would be notified. Formal notices would be prepared. The corporate oversight protocols would be activated. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. Ashley, thanks for letting me crash at your place. You're the best big sis ever. BTW, do you mind if I redo the kitchen cabinets? The ones in there are so outdated. Rachel didn't reply. Instead, she forwarded the text to Olivia. Her lawyer responded immediately. Olivia, this will be useful. Keep documenting everything. Rachel smirked. Ashley had no idea what she had just walked into. A game of patience had begun, and Rachel never lost. Rachel had always been meticulous, planning 3 steps ahead, anticipating worst-case scenarios. That's what made her successful in the corporate world. But even she hadn't expected her family to pull something like this so soon. Sitting in her San Francisco apartment late that evening, she scrolled through Ashley's Instagram stories with growing disbelief. The latest update? A tour of the Austin house, her house, where Ashley gushed about her fresh start to her followers. Sometimes the universe just gives you exactly what you need. Ashley's voice cooed in the video. She spun the camera around, showing off the living room, where she had already swapped out the modern furniture Rachel had chosen for bohemian thrift store pieces. I mean, can you believe this chandelier? So outdated. Definitely gotta go. Rachel's fingers clenched around her phone. Then came the kicker. Also, big news, guys. I'm thinking of opening my own home design business. I've already started redesigning this space, and it's going to be a total vibe. Stay tuned for my transformation journey. Rachel nearly dropped her phone. Ashley wasn't just squatting in her house, she was using it as a personal business project. And judging from the 10,000 views on the video and the flood of comments praising her vision, Rachel knew one thing for sure. Ashley felt untouchable. That was about to change. The next morning, Rachel hired a private property management company to quietly assess the damage. Their first report came in that evening. Unauthorized modifications, walls repainted, from the chic, neutral tones Rachel had chosen to a clashing mix of turquoise and mustard yellow. Vintage hardwood floors covered in boho epoxy art. A wall knocked down to open up the space, structural integrity unknown. Additional concerns. Frequent late-night parties, reported by multiple neighbors. Multiple guests coming and going. Potential short-term rentals suspected. Ashley's boyfriend, Bradley Carter, seemingly moved in as well. Rachel's blood boiled. Her meticulously curated investment property was turning into a chaotic, poorly renovated mess. And now Bradley was involved? Rachel had met Bradley Carter once at a family dinner, a self-proclaimed real estate expert who had never actually owned property. He made vague claims about passive income strategies, but never had anything to show for it. Now he was leeching off Ashley? She needed to dig deeper. Rachel dialed Olivia Turner, her lawyer. We need to add illegal modifications to the growing list of violations, Rachel said, pacing her office. Already ahead of you, Olivia replied. I also found something interesting. Ashley recently applied for a business license in Texas. Rachel's stomach dropped. For what? Home staging and interior design. Rachel let out a hollow laugh. Ashley was literally trying to turn Rachel's investment property into a business, without Rachel knowing. Rachel rubbed her temples. She's treating this like her personal playground. Which works in your favor, Olivia said smoothly. More documentation, more evidence. The more she publicly claims ownership, the easier this is going to be when we move forward legally. Rachel exhaled slowly. Let's keep gathering proof. The timing has to be perfect. She hung up and immediately dialed Samantha Reynolds, her best friend. Let me guess, Samantha said dryly, before Rachel could even say a word. Ashley somehow turned your property into an HGTV disaster? Rachel laughed despite herself. Oh, it's worse than that. She's practically running a design business out of my house. And my parents? They're totally enabling it. Samantha let out a low whistle. Jesus, what's the game plan? Patience, documentation, leverage. Rachel had learned long ago. A rushed move was a sloppy move. Ashley was digging her own grave. Rachel just had to let her keep going. 2 weeks later, Rachel's patience paid off. Her property management company sent their second report. Ashley listed the house on Airbnb. She was charging $250 per night for the luxury bohemian retreat. Several guests had already left complaints about half-finished renovations and construction mess. That last part almost made Rachel laugh. Ashley had no idea what she was doing. Rachel saved every screenshot, every listing, every guest complaint. But the next piece of news pushed her over the edge. Her mother called, as she did every few days, to deliver another manipulation attempt. "Rachel, sweetheart, I just wanted to check in on you." Rachel could hear the hesitation in her mother's voice. "What is it, Mom?" "Well, Ashley was wondering if you'd consider putting the utilities in her name, just so she can start building some credit after the divorce." Rachel pulled the phone away from her ear and laughed bitterly. "You mean so she doesn't have to pay for them herself?" "Rachel, that's not fair. Not fair." Rachel's voice was dangerously calm. "Mom, she's running a business out of my house. She's illegally subletting it. She's destroyed the interior. And you think she deserves more help? She's your sister, Rachel. You're successful. You can afford it." Rachel's grip on the phone tightened. "Mom, I need to go." She hung up and immediately called Olivia. "We're moving to phase 2, Rachel said, voice icy. "I need formal violation notices drawn up. I want her to think she's getting away with it for a little while longer. But soon, she's going to feel every consequence." She could already see it coming. Ashley's world was about to collapse. Rachel had never been the type to make impulsive decisions. In business, in finance, and especially in family matters, she understood one crucial thing. Timing was everything. She stared at the growing digital folder on her laptop, labeled Ashley Violations, filled with screenshots, property reports, Airbnb listings, guest complaints, and social media posts of Ashley treating Rachel's house like her personal empire. Ashley had no clue she was building her own case against herself, and Rachel was going to let her keep going for just a little while longer. 3 months into the takeover, Rachel had been playing along, acting neutral whenever her parents brought up Ashley's new chapter in life. She had perfected the art of the non-committal hum over the phone. "Ashley's doing so well with the house," Linda gushed one afternoon. "She's learning so much about property management. We're so proud of her." Rachel bit back a laugh. Ashley wasn't learning anything, except how to exploit generosity. But Rachel just responded with her usual, "That's great, Mom. Hope it all works out for her." What Rachel didn't say was that she already knew everything, including Ashley's next move. The next morning, Mark Benson, the neighbor in Austin, called her. "You're not going to believe this," he began. "Your sister's throwing some massive event at the house. Caterers, decorations, the whole deal." Rachel immediately went to check Ashley's social media, and there it was. Ashley's big announcement. "Major life update. I'm officially launching my home staging business with a huge housewarming and birthday bash this Saturday. Can't wait to share this incredible journey with all of you. Hashtag new beginnings. Hashtag blessed." Rachel stared at the screen. This was it. Ashley was about to publicly parade Rachel's house as her own, standing in front of her influencer friends, her clueless business contacts, her enabler parents. Rachel smirked. Perfect. Rachel's breaking point. That evening, Rachel's father, Robert, called her. Rachel let it go to voicemail. Then her mother. Then Robert again. When Rachel finally picked up, Robert wasted no time. "Rachel, listen. Your mother and I have been talking, and we think it's time to discuss something important." Rachel leaned back in her chair, glancing at her laptop where the violation report was still open. "Go ahead. Ashley's really made a home there. She's settled in, she's building something, she's working hard. We were thinking, maybe it's time to transfer the deed to her name." Rachel's grip on her phone tightened. "You were thinking what?" "She needs stability, Rachel," Robert continued, as if she hadn't just heard the most absurd thing ever. "You're doing great in San Francisco. You don't even live there. Ashley does, and she's making something of it." Rachel let out a slow, disbelieving laugh. "Dad, do you even hear yourself?" "We just think, no, let me get this straight. You want me to sign over my house to Ashley after she illegally moved in, trashed the place, and is now renting it out on Airbnb without my consent?" She's doing her best, Rachel. Rachel ran a hand through her hair, exhaling sharply. No, absolutely not. Silence on the other end. Then Robert sighed heavily. I was hoping you'd be more understanding. Understanding? Rachel's voice was ice. Understanding that my own family is trying to steal from me? Rachel, let me make something very clear, she cut in. Ashley is not getting that house. Not now. Not ever. Rachel hung up before he could say another word. And with that, she called Olivia. It's time, Rachel said. The housewarming party is this Saturday. That's when we make our move. The setup for the final blow. Rachel didn't sleep much that week. She was finalizing everything. The corporate violation reports were ready. The eviction notice was signed. The building code violations were processed. The police reports about the illegal Airbnb operations were officially filed. By the time Saturday rolled around, Rachel was prepared for war. And as she boarded her flight to Austin that morning, she smiled, because by the end of the night, Ashley's world would come crashing down. Rachel had always believed that the best revenge was served cold. For 6 months, she had watched from a distance, collecting every piece of evidence, every violation, and every instance of Ashley treating her investment property like her personal playground. Tonight, it all ended. Her plane landed in Austin just before noon. She didn't go straight to the house. No, she had business to handle first. She met Olivia Turner, her lawyer, at a sleek downtown office. The paperwork was ready. Formal eviction notice, breach of contract for unauthorized occupancy, building code violations, illegal subletting report, evidence from Airbnb of fraudulent rental activity, a formal corporate audit scheduled for the next morning. Rachel reviewed each page carefully before signing. Are you sure about the timing? Olivia asked, arching a brow. Rachel smirked, leaning back in her chair. She planned a party to celebrate her new beginning, Rachel said. I think it's the perfect time to remind her whose name is actually on the deed. Olivia exhaled, clearly impressed. Cold, ruthless. I love it. Rachel's smile didn't waver. Let's go. The calm before the storm. By the time Rachel arrived in Ashley's neighborhood, the party was in full swing. Expensive cars lined the driveway and street. A valet service, a freaking valet service, was stationed outside, guiding guests inside like this was some kind of celebrity event. Rachel parked down the street, observing for a moment. Laughter and music spilled from the open doors. Inside, Ashley thrived. This was her element, basking in attention, playing the role of successful entrepreneur. Rachel checked her watch. 5:25 p.m. Her team was right on time. At exactly 5:30, 3 black SUVs pulled up behind her. Out stepped Olivia, followed by 2 corporate representatives, a city building inspector, a property management official, and 2 uniformed police officers. Rachel straightened her jacket. Time to go. The public execution. Rachel stepped through the front doors uninvited, her presence immediately turning heads. Ashley, mid-conversation with a group of elegantly dressed guests, froze. Her face lit up in surprise, but then she noticed the officials following Rachel inside. The color drained from her face. "Rachel!" she stammered. What are you doing here?" Rachel tilted her head, smiling coolly. "Oh, don't stop the party on my account." A hush fell over the crowd. People whispered. Someone muttered, "Is this a raid?" Rachel motioned to Olivia, who stepped forward, holding a thick folder of legal documents. "Ashley Morgan," Olivia began, voice sharp and professional. "On behalf of EJM Holdings, LLC, the legal owner of this property, you are hereby served with an eviction notice for illegal occupancy, breach of contract, and multiple property violations." Ashley blinked rapidly, as if she hadn't just publicly received an eviction notice at her own party. "Wait, what? No, this is my house." Rachel arched a brow. "Is it?" The building inspector stepped forward next. "Ms. Morgan, our inspection confirms that you've made unauthorized structural changes to this property, including demolition of a load-bearing wall, improper rewiring of electrical systems, and unsanctioned renovations. All of these violate city code and have resulted in a formal investigation." The whispers grew louder. A few guests discreetly stepped away from Ashley. Bradley, Ashley's sleazy boyfriend, appeared beside her, his expression shifting into false confidence. "Okay, let's all calm down," he said, raising his hands. "There's no need for legal jargon here. This is a family matter." Rachel cut him off instantly. "Oh, really? Because my lawyer just handed Ashley a legal document. And those gentlemen over there?" She gestured to the police officers. "They're here because illegal rentals were reported on Airbnb under Ashley's name, which is considered fraud. And unless you own a badge, I don't think you have any say here, Bradley." Bradley went silent. Ashley's breathing quickened, her panic visible now. "Rachel, please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Not here. We can talk about this later." Rachel smiled. "Oh no, Ashley. We're talking about it now." The final blow. Ashley made a desperate attempt at damage control. "Guys, this is all a misunderstanding. This is just my sister being dramatic." But Rachel wasn't finished yet. She pulled out her phone, screen mirroring her display onto the large TV mounted on the wall. A familiar voice filled the room. Ashley's voice. Playing on screen were clips from Ashley's own social media posts, her bragging about the house, talking about her new business, even listing the Airbnb rentals. Ashley physically recoiled, realizing what was happening. The guests stared at her, murmuring in confusion and judgment. Rachel turned back to Ashley, voice smooth as silk. "You've spent the last 6 months lying to everyone, haven't you?" Ashley was speechless. "You called this your fresh start, your business, your home. But Ashley, sweetie..." Rachel leaned in slightly, lowering her voice so only Ashley could hear. "The problem with taking what isn't yours is that eventually, the real owner shows up." Ashley shook her head rapidly, eyes darting around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to help. But even her own guests were now watching with a mix of amusement and horror. Rachel smirked. "Pack your things," Ashley finally snapped. "You can't do this to me," she shrieked. "Mom, Dad, tell her she can't do this." Rachel turned. Linda and Robert stood near the doorway, faces pale. They looked at Rachel, then at Ashley. And for the first time, they didn't rush to bail Ashley out. Robert swallowed hard. We'll figure something out, Ash." Ashley gasped, as if betrayed by her own parents. Rachel watched the realization hit Ashley's face like a freight train. No one was saving her this time. She had finally run out of free passes. The silence in the room was deafening. Ashley stood frozen, her face pale, her eyes darting frantically between Rachel, the legal documents in Olivia's hands, and the guests who had once cheered her on but were now quietly slipping toward the exit. Even Bradley had mysteriously vanished, probably sneaking out the back the moment he realized there was no profit left to be made from this disaster. For the first time in years, Ashley Morgan had no escape plan. Rachel took her time. She wanted Ashley to fully absorb this moment. This was not a sudden act of cruelty. This was the result of 6 months of bad choices, entitlement, and manipulation finally catching up. And now, there was no one left to save her. The aftermath. The moment the party fully collapsed, Linda and Robert hurried toward Ashley, trying to shield her from the judgment of onlookers. But Rachel noticed something different this time. There was no immediate outrage from their parents, no angry shouts at Rachel for embarrassing Ashley, no demands that she forgive her sister. Linda looked shaken. Robert looked exhausted. They finally understood. Ashley had gone too far. "Rachel," Linda started, her voice uncertain. "Maybe we can figure something out." Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "Mom, Dad, the time for figuring things out was 6 months ago." She gestured to the legal documents in Olivia's hands. "This isn't a debate. It's done." Ashley let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "So that's it? You just win?" Her voice cracked, eyes burning with unshed tears. "You've always been like this, Rachel. Always the golden child, the responsible one, the one who gets everything while I get left with nothing." Rachel's head snapped up. "Nothing?" she repeated. "Ashley, you were handed everything our parents had to give. They paid for your dreams, your failures, your reckless choices, and somehow you still expect more?" Ashley crossed her arms, but she wasn't arguing anymore. because she knew Rachel was right. A final act of mercy. Rachel turned to Olivia. She has 30 days to vacate. Ashley visibly flinched, like she had held on to some hope that Rachel wouldn't actually go through with it. Rachel didn't care. Any cost for repairs not covered by her illegal rental income falls on her. If necessary, we will pursue legal action for damages. Ashley swallowed hard. For once, she didn't argue. Linda wiped at her eyes, looking years older. Robert let out a slow breath. We'll help her pack. Rachel blinked, surprised. Her father had never been the one to hold Ashley accountable. Maybe this was the wake-up call he needed too. Ashley didn't say anything else. She just turned, slowly walking toward the stairs. Rachel watched her disappear, realizing something unexpected. She didn't feel triumphant. She just felt tired. This wasn't about winning. It was about making things right. And now, it finally was. 6 months later, Rachel hadn't spoken to Ashley since that night. She had been too busy restoring the damage, both to the property and, in some ways, to herself. The Austin house was finally whole again. The garish colors were gone, replaced with the modern elegance Rachel had envisioned. The hardwood floors were restored, the electrical work professionally redone. Every sign of Ashley's carelessness had been erased. Rachel stood in the center of the house, taking it all in. She had won. Not just the legal battle, but her peace. Her phone buzzed, a message from Ashley. Rachel stared at the screen for a long moment before finally opening it. Ashley. Can we talk? No lawyers, no drama, just us. Rachel exhaled slowly. She thought about ignoring it, but instead, she typed back, Rachel, coffee tomorrow at 10. The shop across from my building. If Ashley wanted to talk, she could meet Rachel on her terms this time. An unexpected transformation. The next morning, Rachel walked into the coffee shop, half expecting Ashley to show up late, still playing the victim. But when Ashley finally arrived, Rachel almost didn't recognize her. Gone were the flowy bohemian dresses and carefree attitude. Ashley walked in wearing business casual, a laptop in hand. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You look different. Ashley offered a weak smile. Yeah, I've been working on that. Rachel gestured to the seat across from her. Okay, talk. Ashley hesitated. Then she turned her laptop toward Rachel. On the screen was a business plan, a real one. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Ashley admitted, about everything, about the way I've lived my life, and yeah, I was an entitled mess. Rachel stayed silent, watching her carefully. I took advantage of you, of Mom and Dad. I thought because you were successful, you owed me something. Ashley met Rachel's gaze for the first time in years, looking truly sincere. You were right to kick me out. Rachel leaned back, processing this. Ashley let out a nervous laugh. Mom and Dad aren't thrilled about me admitting that. Rachel smirked. They still wanted you to fight me? Ashley nodded. But I didn't. I needed this wake-up call. She motioned to the laptop. I'm actually trying this time, not just another pipe dream. I've been taking courses, getting certified, building a real portfolio. Rachel was impressed, despite herself. Funding? She asked. Ashley exhaled deeply. I'm starting small, budgeting. Once I have proof of concept, I'll apply for a business loan. She hesitated. No more relying on family money. For the first time in years, Rachel actually saw her sister. Not the reckless, manipulative version, but the person Ashley could have been all along. Ashley reached into her bag, pulling out a check. This is the first installment, she said, sliding it across the table. I know the payments are going through the lawyers officially, but I wanted to give this one to you in person, to show I mean it. Rachel stared at the check. Then slowly, she slid it back toward Ashley. Ashley's eyes widened. The repayment plan still stands, Rachel clarified. But this one? Put it toward your certification courses instead. Ashley's lips trembled, but for once she didn't cry to manipulate. She just nodded. Thank you. Rachel nodded back. Maybe, just maybe, Ashley had finally grown up. The final lesson. That night, Rachel received an email from her father. The subject line read, "Apology and amends." Rachel hesitated. Then she opened it. "Dear Rachel, I wanted to say I'm sorry, not just for the house, but for everything. I let your mother talk me into thinking we were helping Ashley, but I see now we were just enabling her. I'm selling my boat and some other assets to help cover the repairs, not because Ashley asked me to, but because I need to make this right. You deserved better from your father." Dad Rachel read it twice. Then, for the first time in months, she smiled. Final reflection. Standing in her restored Austin property, Rachel let out a deep, cleansing breath. She had fought hard for this, not just for the house, but for respect, for boundaries, for herself. And as she ran her fingers along the smooth, pristine walls, the ones that had once been ruined by Ashley's reckless hands, she realized something important. Sometimes the biggest gift you can give family is letting them finally grow up.